Hey everybody, welcome back to What the Helvetica. This is Mike Janda here with my friend Lisi Meyer.
Join Mike, Janda, and guests to discuss the things that make creative people say, "What the hell, Vetica?"
Who is a freelance UX designer, a freelance educator, a digital nomad, a podcast host. She has a whole bunch of things going on. And she told me a few days ago that she was going to start a co-working space in Thailand. Is that what it was?
In Sri Lanka.
In Sri Lanka. Yeah. So this is who we have on today. We're primarily going to focus talking about the digital nomad life and what that's been like for her. It's something I'm super jealous of. So Lisi, why don't you give us a little introduction about yourself and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Lisi. I'm originally from Austria, but my mom is from Thailand. And I always find it a bit weird to say I'm from Austria because she did all of the work. Sorry, Dad. And I moved to the UK when I was in my mid-20s. And then just about like a year into lockdown, I thought they announced another lockdown in the UK. And I thought I don't want to spend another winter here. And packed my bag, sold everything I had, and started traveling. And I'm freelancing, and I don't know what else. I think you said everything in the introduction.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a lot of great things. Lisi and I connected, I don't know, it was like a year ago, it feels like, right? Something like that. Mm-hmm. We connected on Instagram, and I don't even remember the details of how that happened. You messaged me or commented on something or shared something of mine, and then we started chatting in the DMs and then became friends. And I've been watching her kind of travel around a little bit. And it's always interesting to me because I'm so jealous of the digital nomads in the world. I read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. It was probably right when it came out, which has been like, 18 years now or something. And it was kind of the first major exposure to this idea of live anywhere, work for dollars and pay for your life in pesos or whatever currency, locations that cost less than where your major market clients are. And I've been jealous of that ever since. And I've had the family, and I know there are digital nomad family people that are out there traveling with their kids and stuff. I never was able to do that, but I'm always jealous. So where was the first place that you went when you sold all your stuff and started traveling?
I went to Las Palmas in Spain, and it's still one of my most favorite places. And I would probably have gone to South America or Asia, but I went there because it was still COVID restrictions, and I actually got stuck abroad during COVID. So I wanted to make sure that if something happens, I can go back to Austria if there's something with family. So I ended up going to Spain.
And did you have clients like consistent clients? How did you fund your digital nomad life at the start?
So I was already freelancing at the time for 2-3 years, and all of my clients were fully remote. Or even if they would be based in London, I would just go if I wanted to, but it was all fully remote. And that's actually what I was scared of, that I wouldn't find remote clients, because I wanted to be a digital nomad even at the beginning of my freelance career. But I thought, people will want you in the office, etc. So, I just continued having my clients. It just happened.
Yeah, that's good. How many of those clients are you still working for now? Have they been going for years and years? Yeah.
One of them we paused and came back. So there was like a 1 or 2 year gap in between. And one of the other ones, like I have clients that come and go. So if they have a project or if they have a new phase with one of the other stuff that I worked on in the past, they just are asking if I'm available again. And then we continue working.
Yeah. You're not married, you don't have any kids. So it's just you and the freedom to go wherever you want without
no responsibilities.
No responsibility other than yourself. Man, I get jealous of that sometimes too. I had a friend when I was working at Fox. We went through this big 1.5 year long layoff phase where Fox had sold our divisions to Disney, and then they were just systematically laying off our 50-person team. And on the last day, there were 6 of us left. And one of the guys that we worked with, he had just broken up with his girlfriend and he got his severance money. And he said, you know what, I'm going to go travel. And so he put all of his stuff in storage. And then he went to Vietnam and like rented a moped and went out into the villages and stuff. He lived on Easter Island for like a month or something and made a lot of friends there and lived there. And he's just a good social person too, so he can connect with anybody anywhere. And he's so culturally accepting that it was easy for him to go to any other culture and stuff and just love the people and love building those relationships and stuff. And so he did that, and I was so jealous of that. I was so jealous that he was able to go
you can
and
do
that,
too,
because there's a part of me that just wants to go and nomad around like that. I know I should do it. What am I doing? What am I doing here?
Even within America, I think everyone feels like you have to be a digital nomad. You have to pack all your stuff and sell everything. You could just go away for a month or 2 and test it. I didn't go all in at the beginning. I tested it I went for a 2-week vacation somewhere. And back then I had no idea about that it can be super lonely, that actually, yes, you go somewhere, you go to these exciting places, but it's half as fun if you don't have anyone to try all the different foods in a restaurant with, or if you are alone watching the sunset instead of with a bunch of friends, So all of these things, you learn that it's not just figuring out where to go, what to do there, the co-working spaces to find. It's also, where do I meet people? Also, am I going to click with them? Am I going to get lost? What about the language? Or what about the different currencies? There's so many things to consider when you travel. And you can't do it though. You can just put some, like the same way you book a holiday, you just book a trip. And maybe it means that while you're paying your rent at home for a month, maybe you find someone to sublet in the meantime, but you can just try it and see if it's for you. But also I would try different places, because not every place is the same. Yeah.
I know that it's for me already. I know it's for me. I've lived long enough and traveled enough to know that I would love that experience. How did you overcome some of those challenges? So you fly to Las Palmas, Spain for your first digital nomad experience. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there watching the sunset by yourself and you're eating your food by yourself. How did you overcome some of those things and start building relationships? And what was that kind of, how close do you get to people, and how do you find those communities? Because I know that there are these huge communities of people that are doing this digital nomad life, and they're living in hostels and stuff, and living in this low cost type of life so that they can just easily fund their life of travel with freelance work. How did you find those people? Like, how did you connect into those groups?
So, I mean, it's not always cheap. It really depends on where you go and where you stay. And I met someone when I was so I was stuck in COVID. I started again. I was stuck in Thailand during COVID, and I was trying to come back to the UK. I couldn't easily go because there was this quarantine phase, but if I would have gone to Copenhagen and then from there back to the UK, I would not have to quarantine, all these kind of different rules. So I somehow ended up in Copenhagen in a hostel because everything was super expensive. And I feel like I'm past that age where I do hostels. It's just not for me. I value my sleep too much. So I want my private room. But
what's going on that causes no sleep? People are up partying and stuff. Is it it's everything that you can imagine going on?
It's been a while that I've been in hostels. I'm not a big party girl, but it's just if someone checks in or out, that's all you need. You don't need them to go party. But if it's like they have a 7 a.m. flight, so they will leave the hostel at 4 a.m., for example, it will wake you up. Or they don't have to party crazy long, but they might just sit in their bed and work on their laptop or whatnot until 1 a.m. and just them typing or it's not well rested sleep. So it's not for me. So it isn't like
the person next to you at the hostel has a keg of beer next to them and they're drinking all night. It's not like that.
That might happen. But I've never actually traveled like that. I'm actually quite jealous of like people that take a gap year right after university, because that sounds like fun and meeting a lot of people. Since I've traveled, it was mainly just staying in co-living. So basically, I met this guy in that hostel in Copenhagen. He used to work for Facebook, and he was fully remote at that time. And he was saying, don't book hotels because you will not meet anyone, and there will just be families and couples. If you want to connect with people, book co-livings, which is basically a fancy hostel, like a mix of a hostel and a hotel. So you have most of the times your private room, most likely a private bathroom. But there are a bunch of other people who go there with the same for the same reasons as you, that they want to work remotely. And most of the time, what differentiates it from just a nice hotel is that they provide co-working spaces. So they have shared areas where you have some desks and some proper chairs and good Wi-Fi. So I used to book co-livings. So when I came to Spain, that's also what I did. And that's how I met my people. And I'm still in contact with some of the people that I met then. And it's actually very, very easy to make friends because you already have this thing in common that you don't live what my friend calls the checklist life, the find a partner, check, get a job, check, get married, buy a house, get a dog, have a child, this checklist life. You automatically don't do that.
That's my life. You just described my life. You checked. That was all the boxes I checked. I'm probably in a midlife crisis right now. That's what's going on right now. I'm like, I like this idea a lot better than my checklist life. Okay, keep going with that. So it's easy to make friends because you share that same mindset.
Yeah, and also people are automatically open-minded because they've traveled to so many places. Also, everyone who traveled has experienced loneliness. So I feel like it's you might sometimes go somewhere, and not everyone, but every now and then there's a person who notices that maybe this person feels alone and says, oh, let's invite that person over. I traveled once, and there was a guy who, I think he must have been bullied as a child. And he was very much, if he would go to a bar or a club and there would just be a solo traveler, he would be like, oh, let's talk to her, let's talk to him, let's get them into the group. And everyone was, no questions asked, just include them. It wasn't like, but we have our group now, we don't want anyone else in. It was very open, everyone's accepted, unless it turns out you're an idiot. But most of the times it's very welcoming, very inclusive. So, yeah.
Is this group, so you mentioned this group, does this group of people that you met, do you plan new places to go with some of the people that you've been with at other places? Or is it every time you go somewhere, you're finding a new group of people that are there?
A mix of both. So the first few places, I didn't know anyone. And I actually didn't really know how to plan for this, because what is a good time to stay in one place? So I just booked 2 months here and then 2 months there. And for me, I spent so much time looking for the right accommodation and good flights and everything that it's just so much admin. So I prefer staying a bit longer in one place. Whereas I met people who change location every 2-3 weeks, which for me is just too stressful. Really? But so back then when I started, I had like 6-7 months planned in advance. So sometimes people would say, oh, we're going to Italy, do you want to join? And it's like, I already have this, and to cancel it would cost me so much. So I stuck to my plan. And then the year after that, I tried to be a bit more spontaneous. And then I ended up every week in a different place. I think, I don't know, I've been in 15 countries in that year or something, which was very overwhelming.
You did 15 countries in 1 year?
I think something, but it was also, it was also a lot within Europe. So I was in Austria, went to Spain, Lisbon. Then I had a wedding in Lithuania. I had another wedding in Mongolia, and like all these kind of things. Like it was very, very overwhelming. So it sounds exciting, but it's also it can be draining. And sometimes if you travel too fast, you can't really soak in that, oh my God, I'm in the desert in Mongolia. You look up the sky, there is no light pollution. You can see the Milky Way just looking up. And sometimes you have to remind yourself that this is real. You actually made it happen, and you're here now. And I feel like nowadays it's oh, you go somewhere, you take a picture for proof for socials, and then you go to the next location. You don't really
Yes,
soak
this is
it
my
in.
life. My life is the exact opposite of digital nomad. So everything you're saying, whatever the opposite is what my life is.
But that's
Take
not
the
a
picture
good or
for
bad
proof
thing.
of
It's
social.
just it's just
But for
it's
somebody who's been that way, like it's been 25, 30 years now since I've been an adult, and I could have had that other life. I think it's always the grass is greener on the other side for people. You know, I look at my life of the checkbox life that you coined the phrase on, the checkbox life. And then I look at somebody like you that's doing this, and it just looks so appealing to me, but it's probably because the grass is greener on the other side. There's some of that in it, you know?
I feel like I pretty much like the grass on my side.
Okay, so the grass is not greener for you, but it has been greener for me. I don't know. There will be a time for me when the travel and living in other locations and stuff is more realistic.
I mean,
for me.
how old are your children now?
My youngest is 12. And so this is kind of so I have a 26-year-old, he's married. And then I have a 22-year-old and he lives with us. And then we have a 12-year-old who's still in school. And so the hard part is that it's right now he's 12 and going into 8th grade. Ahead of him is high school. And it's hard to just take your kid and travel when they have high school, which is so important for your social development and building your friend network of people inside your school and having those experiences like that. So it's tough to pull him out of that.
I mean, I don't have children. I'm not planning to, but never say never. But I've met people who travel with their children, but they are usually below 6 years old. So it's before they go to school. And I also went to a co-living where it wasn't something they offered specifically, but they had, I think, 4 or 5 houses in that building, 4 or 5 rooms in that building. And what they did is they basically they were all couples with children, and they hired a nanny, and the parents would all work, and the nanny would occupy the children during the day while they're working. And everyone had their own private room, so they could go back and avoid the crowd if they wanted to. The children were occupied, and they were all working, earning money while the kids were having fun. I don't know if that they were also homeschooled. I think they just did that for like 1 or 2 months where they booked a full apartment. But it's definitely something you can do. Of course, when the kids are already in school, it's a bit tricky. But also you could maybe try and combine it with a holiday, and you don't have to work 9 to 5 hour. Like you don't have to work your 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. You could just do a couple hours here and there and just try it out and see how it is.
Yeah. What is the work life like when you're a digital nomad? How much of the day are you spending working versus experiencing the place that you went to? And I know that probably varies from person to person, but what is it for you?
That depends a lot on where I am. So, for example, at the moment, I'm in Austria. I'm in the same time zone, roughly plus minus 1-2 hours where my clients are. So I don't have
Austria,
that much.
Sorry for interrupting, Lizzie, but are you staying with family? Is your mom there? Or are you digital nomading right now in Austria?
Well, I'm staying at my sister's house. I'm basically jumping between here and my parents at the moment. But most of the time I'm in Asia, and I love that because I can do whatever I want in the morning. My clients don't come online until my 3-4 p.m. So I can wake up whenever I want. I don't have to set an alarm. Maybe I meet a friend for brunch. I would go surfing. Then I would do all the things where I want focus time, where I don't get distracted by an email notification or a Slack message. And then I have my lunch. And then I go back to my laptop, and that's when I have the overlap with my clients. There might be a stand-up. There might be a few things that have to be discussed on a call. And if not, I just continue my work. And then my dinner time is basically when my clients would have their lunch break. And then I would go watch the sunset, because in Asia it's always around 6 o'clock. It's not like in Europe where the sun sets at 10 at the moment.
Different times.
And and then also you don't have that much FOMO because it's already dark. So you watch the sunset, and then I really love working at night, which is probably not the healthiest thing, but I just get so much done when I work late. So yes, I have the whole morning that to myself, and then in the evening I work late, but it's because I didn't work the morning before that. So that's how it works for me. So I have, and I call it like bits and bobs of holiday throughout the day. So my brunch with my friend is what someone else's holiday activity would be. The surfing as well, the sunset watching. And I have it sometimes where my sister would come visit. And last year she got a whole month off work. And part of me was a bit jealous, because like, oh my God, a whole month, not checking any messages, not having to do any work, and not having to worry because she's also full-time employed. So she doesn't have to worry that her money doesn't come in, or that maybe she missed sending an invoice or whatnot. And part of me was jealous. And I was also like I was technically off in that time, but I was still doing a bit for podcast or updating my portfolio. I never really, I'm lying. I never updated my portfolio in probably 5 years now.
It looks good. I was on it before our call. Your
thank you.
Looks great. Yeah.
I always want to change something on it. It went to so many different.
That's the life of a designer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, I was jealous, but at the same time, I get icky not doing anything for more than 2-3 days. I feel like I want to do something, even if it's writing a newsletter or like something, writing a blog article. I just feel like I want to do something. I feel I want to be productive. So for me, I wouldn't say I've nailed work-life balance. I also don't like the word work-life balance. I think life should be before work. Yeah. So like life-work balance, or however you want to call it. But I also think you did a post on it a while ago, that it's not really a balance. That
it's not two things. It's like work is part of life, and how big of a component of our life is what we choose. But life is the big circle, and work is one of the circles inside of it. And for you, other things inside that circle are travel experiences, relationships. I know that because you've mentioned family, you've mentioned these friends that you make in these locations and stuff. Relationship building is part, and that's a big circle in my life too. Hobbies, and also a big circle in my life. Exercise. And work is just one of those circles that we have,
and bobbleheads
in there. That's the way I like to. That's the way I like to look at it. It's not like there's work and then all the rest of the life, and it's not really true. Because for me, like you said, I start getting in a bad mindset if I don't work. Like I'll work on Saturday afternoon when kind of in the family things die down and people are just kind of doing their own thing or whatever. I'll go up to my office and work because I love it and it fuels me. There's a piece of that fuels me. So not working, I don't know what I would do. Like I love it too much.
I think that's the thing where it's funny. My digital nomad friends and some friends that I went on a holiday with, who one of them I know from the UK, another one from Austria, and we met in Spain. We all met because my digital nomad friends were there at the same time. And we are in our bubble. In our world, everyone you meet is a digital nomad because we go to these events, we go to co-livings, we go to these type of places. And then when I introduced my friends, they're like, so what do you do? Where are you from? And then after a while, they realized, oh, you're not digital nomads. And my friends were like, yeah, we're normal people. And normal it's like, people. Oh, what is it like to have a base, to have a proper home office, to have like a commute? You know, it's a very, for me, it's like the other thing. I mean, I've done that before, but also it's been a while since I've done it. So, but what was the question again? I'm waffling on.
I don't remember what the question was. Let's go to this topic. So you went 15, how many total countries have you been to? Do you have the count?
I don't count.
Okay. One of my friends has been to like 42 countries or something like that. That's the highest of people that I'm close to on their country count. In Europe, there's a little bit of cheating because you could really go to 10 countries inside of just a couple weeks of time.
Yeah.
And kind of you could experience 10 countries in 10 days if you wanted to in Europe. So there's a little bit of cheating there compared to the rest of the world where landmass of countries seems to be more square miles than what you have inside of Europe. Okay,
it's you've been
to a lot of countries.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. What do you think? What were you going to say?
It's a very American way of traveling. So my ex-boyfriend, actually, he was in Europe for 3 months, and that's when we met. And he was hopping around. So within that 3 months, he did a tripception, where within your trip, you go to other places. And he went to Prague, Amsterdam, I don't know, like Barcelona or whatnot in like 2-3 weeks. And for me, this is crazy. Why would you just spend 2 or 3 days in each of these places? Like, they have so much to offer and all the faff with flying around. Why don't you just stay in one? And then I realized in America, it takes you maybe 2 hours just to do your grocery shopping because everything's so far away. So it makes sense that Europe feels so condensed. It's like, oh, we can do this. We can do 3 countries in one day. And I think even like Vienna, Prague, and Bratislava, which are 3 capital cities, they're all within 2 hours from each other. Yeah. So it is quite easy to do that.
It is as if Europe is as if the United States, all of the states were countries of their own. That's how it is. So I can be in Nevada in a few hours of a drive. And I can also be in Wyoming or Idaho or Colorado, or even Phoenix within a few hours of driving, or not Phoenix, but Arizona. I could be in all those places in just a few hours. And if those were all countries, then I could check off 5 countries in 2 days if I wanted to in the United States, if they were all countries.
Yeah,
and so I think that there is something, you said it was a very American way of travel. We're so culturally like sightseeing kinds of people. That's the thing, it's sightseeing. So we go and we see the Grand Canyon, we take our picture in front of it, and we went to the Grand Canyon, check. And that's a lot of the way that the bulk of Americans are in the way that they travel. They may go to the Grand Canyon for a few days, but it's still checking the box. It's not going and living at the Grand Canyon area for a month, and then a month later you're going and living by the beach in San Diego, which is reasonably close to the Grand Canyon. You could be there in like 4 hours from the Grand Canyon. You could live by the beach there but for a month. But Americans, we don't tend to do that. Everybody's so home base oriented here.
I think it's also because you don't have many, how do you call it, PTO?
Yeah, there's a problem with that for sure. Like most people probably get 3 weeks of PTO is kind of standard. You might have like 2 weeks of vacation and then a week of sick time. Most businesses that I see have bundled it together, where they would have 3 weeks of PTO, use it for being sick or using it for vacation. And then across the year, you have like another 8 to 10 holiday days, like a Monday off because it's a certain holiday or something. That's kind of the standard. So of a 12-month year, you have
That's not a lot.
4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks of time off. And some of it is already holidays of 3-day weekend stuff. I have a friend that I do some coaching with, and he's in Norway, and they have the whole month of July off. Everybody is off in Norway for the month of July. I'm sure they have some people working for fast food restaurants and things, I would assume, but the bulk of business shuts down in Norway for a month, and we don't have anything like that in the US.
Yeah.
So we get a mindset of kind of, you're planted at a home base, you get a vacation week that you ask for your time off, and when you go on vacation, you're not working while you're on vacation, you go on your vacation, you come back in a week and you go back to work. That's kind of the routine here. I don't love it, to be honest. I had a what I considered a pretty generous tiering up of time off at my agency where you were there for a couple years and you'd have 5 weeks of paid time off. I had 1 or 2 people that had been there for like 10 years and they had unlimited PTO. I didn't track it for them. They could go when they wanted to, because you build that level of trust, and they earned it over working there for a decade. You earn that level of trust from your employer.
Yeah.
It comes with, the unlimited PTO comes with the fact that if you're on vacation and somebody needs you for something, you're going to answer your phone. You can't just go on vacation the whole year, and you can't really abuse that privilege. Anyway, that's a whole different topic. I want to go back to digital nomad life. What I was going to ask you, you've been to a lot of countries, 15 in the first year. Give me your short list of, let's say, your top 5 locations, and don't overthink it. Don't overthink it, because I know you're already rolling your eyes up in your head thinking, oh, there's so many I loved. But where's the number one, like, oh man, that was so great. I loved that experience.
I always recommend Las Palmas, because they also have this Slack channel community. It doesn't really matter what time of the year you go. It's always around 20, 25 degrees. You can surf, you can hike. There's a big community, good internet, very convenient, everything you need. That's definitely in the top 5. Then also Chiang Mai, but I'm biased because my grandma lives a 2-hour drive away, but it's also generally very, very popular amongst digital nomads. It's very affordable. The coffee, oh my God, the coffee there.
Where is this? What did you say it was?
Chiang Mai, it's in the north of Thailand.
And it's a country or it's a city?
It's I think the second biggest city in Thailand.
Okay, it's in Thailand. See, for an American, I haven't been to Asia. You got to give me the country and then the city.
Okay, Thailand, Chiang Mai. Yeah. And then
good. That's good.
So that's great. And then Lisbon in Portugal is very, very popular. It's also very hyped.
Is that because of weather and amenities also, kind of like Spain?
Yeah, but the thing is also, there's a big problem when it comes to digital nomads, because I think at the beginning it wasn't too bad, but now so many people have the opportunity to just go and travel, even if they're not full-time nomads. People just do a workation here and there, and they go to places and they stay there. They have their American money coming in, and then they pay a fraction of what they would pay at home. And then the locals can't afford things anymore because the rents go up, because if you would be a landlord and you could charge 500 euros a month from a person that's local, or you could charge $1,200 a month from a foreigner, what are you going to do, And there's so many strikes and so many protests because of nomads coming to a certain area. So we should also talk about that. I don't want to advertise how amazing it is. I think we should all be aware of the impact we have on the economy of the locals, and also on the environment, because the amount of flights, like my CO2, my footprint is not great. Anyway, so we have Las Palmas, we have Chiang Mai, we have Lisbon. I don't want to say it because I love it so much, and I feel like it's already up and coming. And someone told me
not enough people are going to watch my video to ruin the culture of this favorite place that you have as number 4.
Okay, I start with the country. It's in the Philippines. It's called Siargao, and they have this super amazing surf spot. And it's not as convenient because it's a smaller town. It's not that easy to go to, but I heard that they're planning to build an international airport. And rumors are that it's going to become the next Bali, which I'm a bit scared of, because it is a paradise. It's absolutely stunning. And I think if I say this now, people are going to book their flights and their trips now before it becomes this big crazy thing.
They're going to ruin it for you.
That place I absolutely love. And actually, it's not that easy. I thought I would have a ton of places, but yeah. I also tend to always go back to the same places, so I think let's leave it with those 4.
Top 4, yeah.
Oh, actually, I would have to say Helvetica, which is in Sri Lanka, but that's like more for a personal, like that's my own one of my favorites. Yeah.
Why is that personal for you as one of your favorites?
Because I'm starting the co-living there. So it's
Okay.
going to be the first place where I will have something like a base. And
Yeah.
it's wonderful to be able to go anywhere and make every place your home. But every time you go somewhere, you have to learn, how does this coffee machine work, or all these kind of things. Whereas it's nice to have a base. It's also nice to buy souvenirs, have some nice mugs from wherever you go to. And I just don't really have souvenirs from the places I visited because I have one suitcase. So you have to be very picky with what you actually carry with you. So so because I have the home base there, and it's such beautiful nature. You have monkeys that don't attack you. If you look at monkeys in Bali or in Thailand, they come and try and snatch things from you. I
see the videos. It's crazy. The monkey videos of people, they're just like, and they're smart too. Like they got one monkey distracting people while the other monkey's like raiding their backpack of stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But they're not like that at all in Sri Lanka. They just do their own, they're like birds. They do their own thing. And I really hope that it stays like this, because it's usually once people start feeding them that when they start to get a bit more aggressive. And you have like peacocks, and you see them trying to, like the male peacocks trying to impress the female peacocks. And you just walk down to the beach and there's this nature scenario going on. And it's just beautiful. I absolutely love it. But it doesn't have the best internet. So maybe that's why I was a bit hesitant.
Oh, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Explain to me the co-living space. You're doing a co-living space or co-working space? Co-living space.
Yeah.
What is the process of starting that? Like, how are you going about that?
Well, I've never done anything like this before. So luckily, I have 3 other business partners, so we're all equal shareholders, and we're gonna get the keys if everything goes well. We had so many issues with the lawyer, like it's mad. But if everything goes well, we are getting the keys mid-September, and then we're gonna slowly do things up, like install some air conditions, renew the rooms, and I'm really excited for it because some of my friends already said they were gonna come, and it's gonna be it's basically. A co-living is like a mixture of a hotel that has a co-working space, but with a hostel vibe. So the people that you're staying with. It's not like in a hotel where you have no idea who's next doors. The people. You will bump into them. You will say hello to them. You will make friends with them. And that's the nice thing about it. So other people that I met in co-livings, they're going to come and visit and stay with us. And very excited for that.
You're going to hire a staff to run the place? Like, how does that part work?
Well, we all agreed that we want to pay people proper income because the salaries in Sri Lanka are just incredibly low. But also we know that if we suddenly pay them like double what others would get, it's not fair. So it's similar to what I forgot his name, the Nike guy said that you can't pay in like people that make shoes more than doctors, because otherwise people will not train to become doctors anymore. So, I mean, it's a bit different with hotels, but it's the same thing. It's not, we need to figure out what best to do without impacting the economy in a bad way. And also we want to maintain good relationships with other people that do similar businesses, because they've been doing it for a while. And if we suddenly pay our staff more, also we have no idea how much money is coming in. So I don't want to talk about paying them if we don't even know about cash flow yet. But the process is very interesting. It's a very different culture, because in Austria, you have so much bureaucracy. If you don't dot the I's and cross the T's, they will always come back to you for something. Whereas there, you don't even need a tourist license. You don't even need this. Your lawyer doesn't tell you that. We talked to a few lawyers and it's like, okay, we will get a tourist license because I don't want to have to bribe someone if there's like, I want to do things properly so that they can't come with anything. And that also takes more effort, costs more money. But I'm excited.
What's going to happen if so you have 3 partners or 2 partners? It's 3 of you or it's
3.
4 of you? in this?
4 in total, yeah.
Okay. 4 in total. Okay. 4 in total. So is one of you going to always be there? Like you're going to rotate, or you're just going to let it run on its own thing, hire a property manager or a manager for the business and let them run the business?
Yes. So we will rotate and we will hire a manager, because also even if while we are there, it would be good to have someone on site to check in and out the people, to make sure also that the community building itself is happening. So yeah, we're going to be looking for someone once we're there to also check, do we get along with them? Are we all trusting that person? Because it's going to be big responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what's going to happen if the person managing it doesn't do a good job and none of you are there, and then the people who are living in the co-living space are having a bad experience and the water is out and the air conditioning goes out? I'm not trying to make you scared, but as a business owner, an entrepreneur, I think about, okay, what's the kind of chain reaction? And what if I'm in the Philippines or in Austria when that happens, and it's not like I can just be there by tomorrow morning to solve that problem? What do you do in that situation?
I'm a rather positive thinker, so I do hope if something
good. That
happens.
Was super negative. That was a super negative question.
I actually had a conversation like this with a friend recently, because my dad would have said the same thing. I think he even did say the same thing. What if something happens and none of you is there? And it's good to have this voice, because he's right. We need to consider all of these options, and it's good to have a plan B. But it's very rare that everything negative happens at once. I don't want to jinx anything. But if it would happen, we can always get a flight back. We have people that we know people that live there. We have friends and others that we could ring to also help out. So it's not everything on just that manager. And yeah, I also hope that if something would happen, that we find a person who is transparent enough that says, okay, I messed up, this happened, what should I do? And I don't want to hire someone who's scared of us. Like, problems happen. There's always going to be an issue. And I don't want someone to be scared to tell us if there is an issue because they're worried about their job. I'd rather them say, oh, actually, I think, there was a leak, or I forgot to lock the door, and now we have this in the apartment, whatnot. Yeah, I just hope that we find the right person. You never know. But do you have any tips for hiring? I guess it's different when you hire someone to manage a hotel than when you hire an agency. But I guess there will be certain tips for hiring in general.
For sure. I mean, the overlapping of hiring people, trust is number one. Like, you can teach people tasks and skill set, but you can't teach somebody integrity and trustworthiness, honesty. You can't teach that. You can't teach somebody the cultural fit with how you want the energy to be in this co-working space or co-living space. Because whoever that property manager is probably going to be one who sets a lot of the tone of service and how the staff interacts with the people and what that check-in experience is like for people. And so you got to have the person who has that personality, those human skills. I think that's so important. And then the tasks, man, that's like after those top two things, the tasks and teaching them, here, use this spreadsheet to track this and use this checklist when anybody checks into the place. That's easy. Like, we can train anybody with limited education on how to fulfill the tasks that you'll have, but we can't teach people integrity, honesty, trustworthiness, people skills, service mindset. That's hard to teach. Yeah. So that's, I think, my only tip. But I think that runs across all types of businesses. I hired with those things as my forefront consideration when I was hiring people for my agency. And I would do the same. I would hire for the same way for running a hotel or any type of business. Give me somebody I can trust, that I like, and that I think is going to be customer service oriented, be easy and good to work with. Give me that person, and then I'll teach them how to do the tasks.
Yeah, I think it's...
Anyway.
Actually, we had a conversation on my podcast about diversity hires, etc. and if we should hire people for skill or diversity. And I think it's about personality. It should fit the team. There should be certain values that are shared. Of course, if you have a team, let's say you've grown to 5 people and they're all one skin color or one gender or something, I think that's then the stage where like, yes, either you're biased or maybe because I also had some discussions about this topic in my DMs, and some people said, oh, I would love to hire more women. I would love to hire more older people. I would love to hire more people of color, but they just don't apply. And then the question is, what is it? Maybe you're not in the communities where you can find them. Maybe you don't post those jobs where those communities are. Or maybe your job advert is written in a way that doesn't talk to them. And I recently came across a job advert that literally just had this text saying, if you're a woman considering to apply, please do, because statistically, women only apply when they meet 100% of the job criteria, whereas men apply when they meet 30 or 40.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that's one of the reasons why people like you don't have as many applications from women.
Yeah. Interesting. Huh. I think that there's a challenge there, because worldwide and for a good reason, there's a push on diversity in the workplace. And I'm a big believer in that. But if you're living in an area that is predominantly Black, then are you meeting your quota of Hispanic hires in your business, or are most of your employees Black? Or are you meeting your quota of white women in your business when most of your community that you're sourcing for employees is Black? And the same thing on white, primarily white communities. Do you have, you can't go and say 20% or 50% of our employee base needs to be a diversity hire. Well, how do we define that? Do we define it as you have to have a certain number of Hispanic people and a certain number of Asian people and a certain number of Black people and a certain number of people from other countries versus this country, and gender preference bias and down the list, and gender in general bias? Do we have to have it be the mathematically accurate thing? I think it's unrealistic for a lot of businesses. And I assume in Sri Lanka, what is the primary employee base going to be there? It's not going to be white American women or white Austrian women, or do you have enough people from the Middle East working at your place? It's not going to be available to you.
Well, actually,
so
in Sri Lanka, for our co-living, like that's the thing.
Maybe I'm wrong on the metrics there. I've never been, but
I think in general it's difficult to say like who should we like. If I would have an office in Vienna and in Austria or in Vienna in general, let's say we have, I don't know, 50% Austrians, 30% from Hungary, 50% men and women, 50-50 male, female, 20% Asians, 5% people of color, whatever it is. If that's the average in the whole of Vienna, do I need to hire from that batch? Or if I'm a fully remote office, what's the average of the world? Should I go for these stats? But also, I don't think it should be about the stats exactly. It should be more like, okay, if you just have samey people in the office, and it's not just about the skin color or gender or age. I think it's also about personality and background. If someone comes from higher education, or if someone just, I don't know what the English word is, but like in Austria, when you're 16, you can do something like a Lehre. So you don't do your A levels, but you basically start working and learn on the job. It's like an apprenticeship, I think. So what's the background? Because that's two different. They could both be white men, similar age, but if you have someone from a university background or someone who did an apprenticeship, it's two different personalities. So it's difficult to define diversity. But what we said for our co-living is we want to hire Sri Lankans because they have 0 to no job opportunity, especially during low season. And a white person they will get a job, even if they're volunteer, you know, even if they just use accommodation, they will get a job somewhere else.
So isn't that though, and I'm not calling you out because this is such an interesting topic.
Call me out. Like, but if nobody calls me out, I will never.
But isn't that decision a biased decision? So the white person that's living abroad who applies to your business has less of a chance of getting the job because you want to hire Sri Lankans because you want to promote the economic health of their culture and their nation. And I think that that's great. People, I think, would say, well, the difference is that one of those groups is marginalized and the other one isn't. And the white person living abroad is not the marginalized group. They're the group with opportunity versus the marginalized group, which would be the local person with less education or something or whatever, less means or less privilege that they grew up in. I think that there's something in that. We could go down a massive rabbit hole of this for sure. And we would never solve it. We would never solve it, Lizzie. We could talk on this for hours and speculate. I do think I agree with you, and we talked about this on your pod a few days ago, but I agree hiring a diverse group is great. It makes for a better culture. At my agency, we had people who we had your normal white American males. We had a variety of ages of white American females. We also had people who were from other countries. We had from Mexico. We had somebody who was from Brazil. At the agency I sold to, we had somebody who was from Japan. We had a variety of things, but you're still limited. And then we had gender preference too. We had LGBTQ community inside of our business that was represented. So we had the representation of these things, but we didn't have tons of Black people because there aren't a ton of Black people who live here. But culturally, I hired a diverse group of people. It wasn't all white, straight men that were working at my agency. I hired a diverse group of people, but it didn't check all the boxes. And I did have somebody once, when I posted a team photo of my team, they were like, oh, you don't have a Black person on your team? We had like 15 employees or something on there. And my response, they emailed me about it. And my response was, I hire based on the candidates that apply. And in my area, it's not a heavily large Black community, but does not my Brazilian employee or my LGBTQ employee or my Mexican employee or I worked with people from a ton of countries, Singapore and stuff, that we had an employee who was living in Europe and he was in Serbia and he was a full-time employee and living there. Does that not count for a diverse group, even though it didn't have a certain group represented in it? And I think that it does count. You hire as diverse as you can based on the candidates that you have to choose from. I think that that's the healthy perspective. But we shouldn't be going out and judging businesses, looking at their team page and saying, they don't have enough of X type of race or gender there. I'm not going to apply. These people are racial, they're racist or whatever. I think it's hard to judge when we don't know the insides of the business.
Yeah, it's like what you said, if you don't have people applying, but also I actually think it's good in a way that people call it out, because it's very easy for us to talk about. And I know, like, we can go in a massive rabbit hole with this,
we can go.
And we can never make everyone happy. But I also think often people go into defense mode when it's like, oh, but I am not racist, but I'm not this, you know. But the problem isn't that, like, if someone texts you about this problem, it means they do think you're a genuinely good person. Otherwise, they wouldn't raise this problem with you because they know it would be a waste of time. So the problem isn't about trying to prove, oh, but we are diverse, whatever. It's like, yes, we know that, but we struggle finding the right, not that we struggle finding the right people, but that you struggle to meet a certain diversity based on the people that apply, what can we do? But also at the same time, if let's, for example, say you have to go to hire a person of color or a black person or brown person or Asian, whatever it is, specifically seeking them out, them knowing exactly they're going to be the diversity hire is going to make them feel so uncomfortable in their job as well.
Yes. Didn't we talk about that on your podcast?
I don't remember.
Did we mention that? I don't remember either, but I think you may have made that point too. Like you do, there is a certain, you don't want to be that person that you got the job because of your ethnicity or your gender preference or whatever. It's I don't even know, people will call me out saying it's gender preference. And so don't hate on me. Don't hate on me because the mindset of it's not a preference, it's how they were born and things. And so anyway, don't call me out. I'm not a bad person. So that's my little disclaimer there.
But that's the thing, actually. How do you deal with all of these messages online? Because I mean, you're not public like Brad Pitt or or whoever, but you have a public audience. And I feel like there are people who will tell you, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should do this in your agency, you should have this type of content, you should talk more about this topic because it's more, it's important for these groups. And or how do you feel with, because I can also imagine that people become extra careful what they post, what they talk about.
I'm super careful.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be careful here, just talking about it, and we're not solving the problem or supporting any kind of racism or hiring bias at all. But I'm being super careful because I know that there are a lot of people out there that are so hyper tuned to try and find people that are saying it wrong and then going after them. And I've been the victim of that. I've received that. Anybody who has any kind of audience of any kind has people that come after you for that stuff. I've gotten called out for not posting enough about a certain global topic that people were all up in arms about, and I wasn't posting about it. So I had people calling me out saying, you should be supporting XYZ because you have an audience and stuff. And I was like, geez, my platform is not a political platform where I'm trying to solve world issues. I'm trying to teach freelancers freaking contract clauses. So it's not the platform for me to do that. That was my thinking. And I had to kind of understand that. I did post my thoughts on a couple of things a few years ago in the early days, and I realized don't touch any of it with a 10-foot pole. We're already getting into an uncomfortable part of the conversation for me just in hypothesizing some of this stuff because it's so sensitive, and that's not my core platform.
I think
so
that's
anyway,
actually
how do I handle it? What I said, sorry, and then I'll let you go. What I said to the people who've called me out, I've replied back to them and said, if you really knew me, you would never have made that comment at all. Because that's the truth. I mean, I have a very diverse group of friends all over the world from every culture you can imagine. I mean, I've traveled a lot of places, and I have friends that I'm close to of not a billion, okay, but of tons of different countries that they're from, ethnicities that they're from, political perspectives that they come from, gender preferences that they come from. I have a list. So people who really knew me wouldn't counter me. That's how I am a hater thing. That was the core question. Okay, what were you going to say, Lizzie?
I was going to say that I lost my train of thought here. Oh yeah, the calling people out on posting about a certain topic is actually very dangerous because you could call out a person who, let's say they're a makeup TikToker, and you're telling them to, like, they might have 1 million followers, and you tell them to talk about a certain topic. They could just share misinformation. They probably didn't research it. They might just look for a post that is already popular and reshare that.
Yeah.
And then it goes to an audience of 1 million people and it's wrong information. So I think it's actually very dangerous to ask people who don't have much knowledge on that specific topic to use their platform as an audience. Good for raising awareness, but using it to educate people on a topic that you don't really know of is very tricky, because you could do more harm than good.
Israel-Palestine, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but this is the hot one that has been the hot one for the last several months. And I'm not going to post about it. And a lot of people do. And I'm not going to post about it. I don't know what to freaking do. I'm not running anybody's country. I don't live there. The dynamics of it are so complicated that anybody going and saying it should be this way, it should be that way. I mean, man, there's only a handful of select people that can really influence how that goes. And my freelancer Instagram account is not one of the places that can have an influence on what happens in that. And it's not my place to say, because I just am so not involved. And then people would come after you and say, this is how the hater community is. Then you need to get more involved. You need to pick an opinion and you need to support those people and stuff. That's the perspective. And I mean, there are only a few places that I have direct influence, and it's on my kids and my own personal life, and then to my extended family that I can support and help through challenges and things. That's my direct level of influence. And then the rest of my influence comes in my ability to live in a country that can vote, and I vote for candidates that align as closely as possible to the things that I feel like I align to. And that's where I can really make an influence. But I think we have to, in social media, the people that are going out and finding the fashion influencer and going after them to post something about the Israel-Palestine conflict when they're not one of the people that has enough information or knowledge or understanding or the nuances of that. I mean, you're talking about 1,000-year war here. This isn't a new conflict. How do we solve the 4,000-year war in Israel and Palestine? How do we solve that? I don't know.
People also forget that there are real people behind this platform, and I think this phone, this social distance, the Zoom screen, whatever it is, makes people forget that there's a person who has their own problems. They are going through stuff that nobody knows about, and you bombarding them, a complete stranger, expecting them to do something that you think they should do, but you don't know. Maybe outside of social media, they went to a protest. Maybe they signed certain, they collected signatures to put something in front of government. You don't know that. Maybe they're donating, but they just like, I do those things, but I don't post about it, because it's what do I feel like, okay, for myself, what can I do and what's in my power? I mean, my platform isn't big, but I also know that people that follow me, similar to you, they want freelance information. They want to make a living. They want to learn how to become a digital nomad or whatever. And then bombarding them with topics where I know what I think is right. I don't know if that's really the solution. There are people smarter, hopefully finding a solution, but also there are people in government not doing the right thing. But also I can't influence that as much as people might think through a social media platform. Yes, you have an audience. Yes, you have a certain power, a certain leverage with that. But also it's very, very tricky to not post potential misinformation, because like you say, we are not experts on that. So I also find it hard when people are asking you to talk about a topic that, is very nuanced. Yeah, very nuanced.
Okay, this was a massive tangent from what we were talking about. It is interesting though, and I think hopefully some of these perspectives that we've shared help people understand. I love what you said there about there's a real person behind whatever whoever you're calling out or reaching out to, or saying that they should do more or should do less or should say this or should say that. Who are you to say what they should or shouldn't do? I mean, you're calling people out that oftentimes are in a totally different country with a totally different culture, with a totally different set of means, with a totally different political environment than what you have, and you're making a judgment call on what they do. Who are you to say that? It's a very complicated world with a wide variety of thoughts and opinions, and it's not black and white. And a lot of people that are calling people out think that it's black and white, in my opinion. They think that it's black and white and that, yes, you should do exactly this because that's how I think. But it's not black and white. None of these kinds of topics that we're kind of dancing around here are black and white topics. These are very complicated things with a lot of gray area. And we just need to do the best we can with the privileges that we have, overcome the privileges we don't have. We just need to do the best. Everybody born into certain circumstances, you have a certain career life path. You just got to make the decisions as best you can in the moment that you have them with the information that you have at the time, and then try and be a good person. Just try and be a good person. I think that that's the overarching thing. Anyway.
Yeah. But I still think it's good to talk about these topics because we have the privilege to talk about them. We do actually have power. And it's like, you're on top of the pyramid. I'm on top of the pyramid, except for that I'm a woman. Like, we're both white. Mm-hmm. We speak English. We have Western income. We're very, very privileged. We can do a lot. If someone in, I don't know, Thailand, my grandmother, for example, she would not be able to have the same impact talking to someone as we do, because how people perceive the value of our opinion. So it's good that we talk about it. But this conversation was very political.
Yeah, how did it get here? I don't know, but it is good that we talk about it, and it is good that we offer up some thoughts on what I hope people think about this segment of our conversation is that they think about the fact that there's a lot of gray area and there's a human on the other side of whoever you're making judgment on regarding any certain policy, principle, conflict in global stuff. I don't want to go conspiracy theory, but allegedly the conspiracy theorists believe that there's just a small group of people who are making all the world decisions anyway. And so I can promise I'm not one of those people that allegedly is defining. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I would know. I would know by now if I was one of those, and I'm pretty certain I'm not. Anyway, okay, let's go back to digital nomading as we wrap up. Where are you going next, and where are 2 or 3 of your dream places that are coming in the future?
I'm next going back to Bali, but I'm going to try Lombok this time. And
how long are you going there?
I'm going there for 2 months.
2 months. When do you leave?
In September to open the co-living. So I'm leaving there in 2 weeks, and then I'm leaving to Bali in 2 weeks, and then coming back to Sri Lanka in September. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So you're going in 2 weeks. I'm just looking so where I can book my flights. So you're going to be there in 2 weeks. I'll see you there in Lombok, Bali.
Yes.
That's my first step. Okay, I'll even go help you open the co-living space in Sri Lanka. This is my whole new career path.
That would be amazing. That would be great.
My whole new career path is that. Okay, and then where are some of the dream destinations that you're headed?
I really, really want to go to Peru and Mexico. I've not
Peru,
been
you've never
to
been?
that. Yeah, never been. Not been to that part of the world at all. Yeah.
I've
so
spent
if you have
a few
any
weeks
tips
in Peru. Yes, go. Peru is you fly to Lima, and Lima's cool, but where you really get cool is go to Cusco, and there's a lot of hostel kind of co-living spaces and stuff in Cusco. Cusco is the primary city the closest city on your destination to Machu Picchu. So Cusco is where a lot of people stay. It's up in the mountains.
Is that where you do the acclimatization, the air height thingy?
You don't really need to climatize to go to Machu Picchu. It is higher. Cusco is higher than Lima. Lima's at sea level. Cusco is higher for sure. It's up in the mountains. But you won't need to acclimatize to do Machu Picchu. But there's a cool town at the base of Machu Picchu called Aguas Calientes. And that, you take a train into there, and there's a lot of co-living, co-working type of places there. Oh,
Nice.
It's so epic. Machu Picchu, it's just epic. You're going to love Peru. People love
I can't
Peru.
wait.
I love Peru. I love Peru. Okay, where's another dream destination?
Egypt and Nigeria. Very random.
Nigeria. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nigeria is random. That's interesting. What's the draw? So Egypt, I get. There is some seriously interesting, unique history in Egypt. So I get that one. That I could understand being on somebody's list. Nigeria, that's interesting because there's challenges in that country right now. What's the draw for you? What's the draw for you in Nigeria?
I want to go to Africa, and I want to, because like I basically want to challenge how I see the world. And in Europe, I can name countries, etc. In Asia, America, but in Africa, for me, it's just a big blurb. I think it's similar to, well, I don't want to be offensive because you probably have a lot of Americans listening, but in in Europe, we say the Americans don't understand the rest of the world because they see Europe as one country rather than like different countries in one. Like you were saying, like Europe is basically like the US and the States are the countries. And this is how I see.
I said that earlier in the podcast. So
exactly.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. That is how we see it. Yeah.
And this is how I see Africa, so I want to go there and actually learn about the different countries there. And because we have this idea what it's like there, and I met a lot of people who are from Nigeria. So, and they all say it's stunning. Of course, there are areas where you have to be careful. There are going to be power cuts. So maybe go on a holiday, not on a work trip. Also, I don't want to go there alone. No. But yeah, I definitely want to go and see that part of the world because, I think I have some beliefs that I have to tackle.
That's awesome. Okay, you've never been to Africa, anywhere in Africa?
I've been to Morocco, but I guess that's very different to the rest.
I was going to say Morocco because that seems like it's just an easy jump over the Mediterranean Sea to get there from where you have spent a lot of time. Anyway.
It's beautiful there. It's stunning.
Yeah. I just connected with somebody from Morocco recently. I think I was on his podcast, in fact. And he's in Morocco. And I was told he was my first friend in Morocco. So I was like, oh, see you there. That's what I say to everybody. I'm like, okay, you're going somewhere cool.
I'm waiting for you in Sri Lanka.
I'll see you in Nigeria. I'll see you in Sri Lanka. No, I would love that. There is a big part of me that is extremely jealous of your life.
Should we do a freelance retreat in Sri Lanka in the co-living?
Heck yes. Let's do it. I'm putting it on my list. Okay, freelance retreat, Sri Lanka.
I'm going to chase you on that. Once everything's up and running, once we have like really good internet and proper desks and everything.
Oh, yes. Oh, that would be epic. That would be epic.
Let's do that.
I've done a couple retreats in my community More Creative Academy. We've done some retreats. It was Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Dallas, Texas.
I saw the stories,
retreats. Yeah. And they were amazing and super fun, and people were able to connect. It was on a deeper level than what they do even in the community calls that we have. It was super fun, but man, those experiences of doing something like that, a Sri Lanka retreat would be epic.
And you can bring your son over the holidays, and then you can call yourself a digital nomad for a bit.
Oh, good. I love this. I'm on board. Okay.
Nice.
I'm not kidding. Chase me down about that. Let's do it.
I will.
2025. We can make it happen. 2025. Okay.
I'm going to try Lizzie, and get the co-living up.
Good. I'll be watching for updates too in your social media. So don't hide the experience there, because there are people like me that are super interested in what you're posting about your digital nomad life, and opening the co-living, super, super interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on. This was a super fun conversation. Now we've talked for like 3 hours this week so far. So it's been awesome. Thank you. And we need to get you on again in the future on here, because you and I could talk for days, I know, about all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. You're welcome. Okay, where can people find you? Where do you want to drive them? And we'll put all your links in the show notes, but where do you want people to go?
The easiest way is probably my Instagram at Elisabeth Mayr. So it's Elisabeth with an S, not a Z, Mayr. And there's also a platform that I'm trying to do a bit more on called the Freelance Blueprint. So it's freelance-blueprint.com. But yeah, it needs a revamp, but it's a start. So yeah,
I
those
looked
places.
at it. Doesn't look. Everything needs a revamp, but it doesn't look bad.
It's
good. I have it up on my screen right now as we talk. Okay. Thank you again. It was so fun. I can't wait to see what happens next for you. It's so fun for me to watch. Thank you.
Thank you. See you in Sri Lanka.
See you there. Bye.